Hi everyone, Paul Levy with Brownells here, and today we have another rifle from the vault. Today we've got an AR-18 and actually an AR-180. AR-18 is the full auto variation. This particular gun is a Howa. The AR-180 was designed in 1963 and then was marketed by Armalite in the late 60s and actually made up until about 1985 or so. This was basically Armalite's answer to the AR-15, in that they had sold the rights to produce the AR-15 to Colt, so they had to come up with a new design to market. Was never really that successful with any military. They did sell quite a few on the civilian market, like this one here. They were produced by Armalite themselves in Costa Mesa, California, by Sterling in England, and then by Howa in Japan. These particular versions by Howa are considered to be the finest quality. Some of the originals from Costa Mesa were often hand-fitted. In particular on these, you'll notice much nicer welds on them. But it's a very elegant rifle. It is ugly, but it's elegant in its construction and just how much thought went into how everything works. And that's why I really like it. It's a very neat rifle from a manufacturing perspective. As far as handling characteristics and function, if you're familiar with an AR-15, this is going to be right at home for you. One advancement they did do, maybe not advancement, but improvement, is they do have an ambidextrous safety selector. This little guy on the right-hand side, then your standard AR-15 style on the left. And to charge it, you've got this nice reciprocating charging handle. It does have a very nice ejection port cover, so when that's closed, that whole gun is sealed up, nothing's getting in there. As far as operation, it does take an AR-15 style magazine. This one's been crudely converted for an AR-18 or 180. Basically, they take an AR-15 style magazine, they have a notch in the side to work with the AR-180 magazine release. It's a very simple magazine release, just pivots right there with a slot in it. And then the rear's cut out on the magazine to accommodate the bolt catch. And then the bump on the side is flattened since there's nothing in the mag well on the AR-180. So to operate it, you simply insert the magazine. I'm going to take it out just to demonstrate the function. Charge it, and you're good to go. Take it off safe, and you're ready to fire. A few other features on it before I disassemble. Of course, has a classic Armalite style flash hider. This is very reminiscent of like a early 3-prong found on the AR-15 with a castle nut, or I should say a nut keeping it in place. It is a piston-driven operating system. One reason why I like this rifle, it did inspire a lot of follow-on rifles. This borrowed from a lot of previous rifles itself, but you do see a lot of current production rifles using this mechanism, G36, the HK416, and so on. One big feature on it, it does have a folding stock, so that was seen as a nice upgrade to a lot of people. So you depress these two little nubs right here, and then it folds over and is captive with that piece right there on the side, and your stock is folded. Otherwise, that's pretty much everything on the exterior. It does have a sling swivel on the pistol grip, and a nice just peep assembly. Very simple, straightforward. I should say pretty much everything on this rifle is stamped steel. It's very innovative how they put this together. So I'll go ahead and disassemble it real quick. To disassemble it, of course, you check it, make sure it's clear, and you depress this piece right here. This is actually a portion of the recoil guide rod assembly. So I'm going to depress this, move it forward, and then my upper and lower can separate. And you can see immediately that wants to come out. So there's my 2 recoil springs and guide rods. I'm going to take my lower receiver off real quick. It's not necessary, but the front pin is not captive, so that just comes right off. And here you can see the extent to which they use stampings. This was really intended for countries that didn't have the capability to machine an AR-15 or rifles at the time. If you could stamp something, you could produce this rifle. And you can see in here, the hammer itself is a stamping, the trigger's a stamping, everything in there, for the most part, is a stamping. This little mechanism right here, that's your bolt catch. One thing with these, if you have one, do not fire it in this condition. Do not drop that hammer, because it'll slam right into that bolt catch, and nobody's making those bolt catches today. So you'll be out of bolt catch. So that's your lower receiver. And then your upper receiver, it's a very simple disassembly process from here. pull my bolt assembly to the rear, take out my charging handle. Again, super simple. And then here's my carrier. You may recognize that bolt. It's essentially an AR style rotating bolt, 7 lugs. And then it rides in a very simple carrier. You see this on a ACR today, SCAR, very similar setup. The operating rod impacts right there, and it just recoils under that impact. M16 style ejector, or I should say extractor, on that as well. And then from there, I've got my stamped upper receiver, and now I can take off my handguard. Really neat thing on this, there's no pins or anything holding this top handguard in place. It simply comes off because it was held in place by these guide rods. They basically hold that in place. So as soon as you disassemble that rifle or take the guide rods out, it's ready to come apart, but can't under assembled conditions. And up here's the heart of the rifle. You got, of course, your barrel, and then you've got your short tappet piston assembly. I'll disassemble this here real quick, but it's pretty ingenious. During firing, gas bleeds off the gas block, enters your piston assembly up here. The assembly recoils backwards, impacts your carrier, and then rebounds. And it does that again and again. To disassemble, I'm gonna pull this portion back. It is 3 pieces here. I'll pull this back and kind of wiggle it loose. Sorry, this isn't the best thing on camera. So this middle portion comes out, just a steel connector. And then the back portion comes apart. That's just a simple steel rod like an FIL or something. And then up front, I've got my piston assembly, and this will just come right off. And that's done. That's chrome plated for easy cleaning. And there your AR-180 is fully disassembled. So that's the Armalite AR-180 in this edition from the vault.